Welcome back, everyone, to another deep dive here on the Excel Edge podcast show.
Mabu, hey.
I'm Lex,
And I'm Vera.
and we are really excited for today's topic.
Absolutely. We've had a lot of requests to cover this.
Yeah, especially from all of our Filipino listeners.
Yeah, a lot of aspiring real estate agents out there in the Philippines.
And that's what we are going to be talking about today.
Getting into the real estate industry.
You actually sent us a really interesting Reddit discussion recently.
Right from phinvest.
Yeah, and it got me thinking, is a career as a real estate agent in the Philippines actually worth it?
Yeah, the original poster, Significant Builder 34, I think that was their username. Yeah. They really just want to know, straight up,
Is this a good career?
is this something I should be pursuing?
And I loved how many people chimed in.
Yeah. So many different perspectives.
People who had been doing this for years.
Yeah. Veterans in the field, and then also newbies.
Brand new.
Just starting out.
So we're going to be breaking down this Reddit thread today.
Exactly. All the different perspectives.
All the juicy details, all the insights.
The good, the bad, and the ugly.
So if you are thinking about a career in real estate in the Philippines, this is a deep dive you do not want to miss.
This is your shortcut
We're doing the hard work for you.
to really give you that insider knowledge,
Straight from the people who are actually in the trenches.
living it.
All right, so let's just jump right in. One of the first things that people always want to know about is money.
Of course, show me the money.
Right, the income potential.
The big bucks.
So what were people saying about that on Reddit?
Well, there were a couple of really interesting, contrasting viewpoints. I think on one hand, you definitely have the potential to earn a lot.
Turn a lot of money.
We saw experienced agents mentioning monthly incomes from 500,000 pesos to 1,000,000 pesos.
Wow, that's a lot.
So that's obviously a huge draw for a lot of people.
Absolutely.
One person even talked about how after just 1 year
1 year.
in the luxury market, they were able to buy a brand new Ford Ranger.
I mean, that says something. That's a powerful image.
But I think like with any commission-based job,
There's risk.
there's a lot of uncertainty, especially when you're first starting out.
You're not getting a guaranteed salary every month.
And someone even asked, in Tagalog, prepare kaya sa opina hindi makabenta ng property for the next 6 months.
Yeah. Are you ready to potentially not sell anything for 6 months?
And how are you going to survive financially if that happens?
Yeah, that's a big question.
Especially in the beginning.
When you're just starting out.
Mm-hmm.
So what about the timeline for that first sale?
So for making your first sale, there were a lot of different experiences.
Yeah.
Some people were lucky.
Like that one person who closed the 3 million peso deal in their first month.
Yeah, talk about a rock
They're
star.
philanthropists.
Talk about starting off with a bang
But then on the other hand, you had folks who, it took them a year or more
to get that first sale.
to really make any commission.
So I guess it's all over the place.
It really depends.
But it sounds like on average maybe 3 to 4 months. 3 to 4 months before you can expect to see that first commission check.
So you need to be prepared.
Have that financial cushion
For sure.
to tide you over.
So important.
And a lot of people were saying that, it could take up to 2 years of consistent sales
2 years.
to really achieve that financial stability.
So that's a good benchmark, I think,
To keep in mind.
to really be thinking long term.
It's not a get-rich-quick scheme.
Exactly.
You have to put in the work.
It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Exactly.
Okay, so beyond just like the money, the income, what were some of the skills that people were saying are important for success in this field?
Okay, so let's think about this more holistically, moving beyond the financial aspects.
Yeah.
What really stood out to me was this overwhelming emphasis on people skills.
Yeah, you got to be able to talk to people.
Networking came up again and again.
Right, if you're in sales, networking is so important.
Someone even said, being a realtor is not about hard work. It's all about your network, who you know and who knows you. It's not just about, putting in the hours.
Right.
It's really about who you can connect with.
You got to build those genuine connections.
Absolutely. And it goes beyond just like knowing a lot of people.
Right.
Being maboka, right? Being able to talk to people and be persuasive.
And likable.
Having that pleasing personality, as one person put it.
Yeah, I mean, you want to work with someone who's likable.
Yeah, you got to build that rapport.
Yeah.
Make those connections.
Yeah.
Because referrals are everything.
Exactly. So
And
important.
of course, like in any sales role, you also need that confidence.
You're going to get rejected sometimes.
Rejection is part of the game.
You got to be able to bounce back.
And this one agent, they said, sales is all about confidence. If you don't have one, you've already failed.
Whoa, that's powerful.
Yeah.
So true.
You got to have that mindset.
Mindset is everything.
Okay, so for someone who's like really considering this, how do they actually become a real estate agent In the Philippines, that's a great question. And a lot of people were confused about, the difference between a real estate agent and a real estate broker.
Yeah, I mean, those terms get thrown around a lot.
Right. So in the Philippines, it's really important to understand that there's a legal distinction between these roles.
Okay.
So to be a real estate broker, you need a PRC license.
Professional Regulation Commission.
And that usually means you need a bachelor's degree in real estate management, a BSREM.
So that's like the full-fledged professional.
Yeah, but there are also some accelerated programs if you already have a bachelor's degree in another field.
So you don't have to go back to school for 4 years?
Not necessarily.
But what about a real estate agent or a salesperson?
So a salesperson works under a broker.
Okay.
You need to be accredited by a broker,
Okay.
and they kind of sponsor you.
So you need to find a broker who's willing to take you on.
Exactly. And you don't necessarily need that BSREM degree.
So that's like the entry-level position.
Oh, it's a good way to get your foot in the door.
To learn the ropes?
And a lot of people start out as a salesperson before maybe becoming a broker later on.
That makes sense.
Now, we also need to talk about the costs involved,
The not-so-fun part.
right? There are some upfront expenses to consider.
Like you're probably going to need a car.
Yeah, a car is pretty much essential for meeting with clients and showing properties.
And then there are those other expenses like PRC accreditation and BIR registration, Bureau of Internal Revenue.
Even for salespeople.
And, of course, there's the income variability that we talked about.
The ups and downs.
The long hours.
It's not a 9-to-5 job.
You might be working weekends and holidays.
And your income's going to depend a lot on the market,
How the market is doing.
the economy, all of that.
So there's definitely some risk involved.
It's not for everyone.
But one thing that was encouraging is that age didn't seem to be a barrier.
Yeah, we saw successful agents who started in their late 20s, their 30s, even their 40s.
So it's never too late.
But you do need to be prepared for the demands of the job.
It's not easy.
It's a lot of work.
Now, there was also some debate about whether it's better to start with a developer or as a freelance agent.
Yeah, that's an interesting question.
What were people saying about that?
So some people were saying that starting as an in-house agent for a developer is a good way to learn the ropes.
It's like a more structured environment.
You're focused on a specific portfolio of properties.
You get to really know those properties inside and out.
You learn how to do presentations, how to negotiate, how to close deals.
It's like a good training ground.
Yeah. But then other people were saying that being accredited with a brokerage firm might be better.
Especially if you're just starting out.
You get exposure to a wider variety of properties,
From different developers.
so you have a broader understanding of the market.
And you can tap into the brokerage's existing network,
They already have those connections and marketing resources.
which can be really helpful when you're starting out.
And some people said that freelancing, especially in the luxury market, can be more lucrative in the long run.
But it's also more challenging.
You need to have those connections and that experience.
So it's a trade-off.
It really depends on your personality, your goals, your risk tolerance.
There's no one right answer.
You have to decide what's best for you.
All right, so we covered a lot of ground today.
A lot of information.
But let's just quickly recap some of those key takeaways.
So we know that the income potential in real estate in the Philippines is high.
High, but
It's commission-based,
and can be unpredictable.
especially in the beginning.
Yeah, those first 2 years can be tough.
You need to be prepared for that.
But beyond the money, we learned that some of the most important skills for success are
Networking, sales and interpersonal skills,
confidence,
professionalism,
and a clear understanding of the difference between a broker and a salesperson.
and of course, you need to be aware of the costs involved, the potential for income
The
fluctuations,
long hours,
the dependence on the market.
all of those things.
But remember, age is not a barrier,
And there are different ways to get started.
whether it's with a developer or a brokerage.
It's really up to you to decide what's best for you.
So hopefully this deep dive has given you a good overview of the real estate industry in the Philippines.
Yeah, we tried to distill all the important information from that Reddit thread.
So you don't have to spend hours reading through all those comments.
We did the work for you.
Now, of course, we here at Excel Edge Realty, we focus on the mid-price to high-ticket market.
Yeah, if that's something you're interested in, we would love for you to connect with us.
You can find more information on our website, www.exceledge.com.ph.
So we encourage you to think about what unique value and network you can bring to the Philippine real estate market.
Especially in that mid-price to high-ticket segment.
How can you position yourself for success?
What are your strengths?
What are your connections?
What can you bring to the table?
And if you found this deep dive helpful, please hit that follow button.
And share with anyone else who might be considering a career in real estate.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Mabuhay.
Bye.
Bye.